So welcome back to Ep.2 of Let's Talk, basically an unscripted session where our creative director, Patrick, asks us random questions about the real estate space that we hope that you may find valuable.
So last week you talked about self-managing your properties, that you guys don't use any other company that manage your rentals. So how do you manage your rentals?
So, we self-manage, and Heather handles all that. So you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So for the short-term rental properties that we have right now, we manage those through VRBO or Verbo. And I do handle those. But one caveat to why I feel like we are able to do that efficiently is because of the relationships that we have with our cleaner and our handyman. So our cleaner is amazing. We partner with her. She cleans all of our rental properties. She will, take note of anything that I need to get for the rental. She'll actually go get it for me. So that is a huge value add to us. And then if there are any maintenance issues, we have a handyman that we can call that helps us with that. So I feel like those two people are critical in helping us manage those efficiently with how busy we are with our real estate business.
Awesome. And then earlier in the August reel that you guys said you guys are going to use the new construction as the investment vehicle. So why are you guys choosing the new construction versus like the condos?
Yeah, I think we decided to, move our money from like older condo buildings to these cottages, for a number of reasons. Like we talked about in the last video, the carrying cost is less. The trend of short-term guests wanting their own space, detached space. And then, if you do get a storm, I think you have a better chance of not having large assessments when you're in these cottage developments.
And so let's just define the word assessment. What are assessments?
Yeah, assessment is basically anytime you're a part of a common ownership, with other people, the HOA or the board or the decision makers can assess extra monies, and it could be for a repair or an improvement, or it could be for an insurance premium, things like that. So basically, they can collectively assess for those things.
How often does that happen for us, for assessments?
It really just depends. It depends on the HOA. It depends on the needs of the property or the complex. So it varies.
I compare it like you're going to need a new roof on your house every 15 to 20 years, and you're going to have a large outlay of money for your house. Well, the same for a condo building. They have roofs too. So depending on how the HOA has budgeted over the years, they may have that reserved to pay for that new roof, or they may have not. They may have chosen to keep their dues lower and then assess a large chunk when those items come due.
So you guys self-manage because you guys are local to the area. Let's say for a family who has a house in Iowa and they want a beach home to come down during the summertime or the winter times, get away from that snow. What would you advise them to do to take care of their property? If it's a condo, if it's a cottage, if it's a new construction home, what are some of the ways that they can maintain that home when they're not there?
I would recommend using a rental management company if you're not living in the area. Somebody who, is an expert in the rental market. They know what the rates need to be. They know the area. They have their own maintenance, people that can go in and fix that. If you're living in another state, it's very difficult to do that. So I would say if you don't live in the area where your property is, I would recommend hiring a rental management company.
So let's say hypothetically, they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the common mistakes or troubles or kind of like pitfalls do you think the person will run into if they don't hire a company to manage the rental? What the tenants, what were some of the pitfalls that they should look out for?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like a maintenance issue. If they have somebody in the area that they trust, that they can hire to go do those things, I would think that probably, like the running to, for example, we had one of our coffee pots at our cottage, quit working. And so our guests needed a coffee pot. Well, you have to go to Walmart, buy the coffee pot, take it. Like that takes time. So if you're not here, you have to have somebody that you can trust to be able to do those things. So I think that, making sure your guests are taken care of in that way would probably be the biggest, issue, I think.
How about the payment part?
Yeah, so through VRBO, if you manage through VRBO or Airbnb, it's pretty easy. It's very user friendly. You set it all up in the beginning. The money is deposited into whatever account. They pay online. VRBO basically manages all the payments for you and makes sure it's dispersed. So that part is very easy.
So what happens if a client trashes your home? Let's say long-term rentals, like they're staying for 6 months or a year. You're just having it down there as an investment property. What happened if they trash it? I think you guys experienced that a few times.
We have.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a long-term rental and they trash your home, I mean, there's really not much you can do about it. You just got to deal with it. You just can't get too emotional about it. You got to clean it back up and get it back on the market. Of course, it upsets you. It's frustrating, but we don't really get that emotional about it anymore. We got somebody to help us clean it back up and get it back on the market. Get it back rented.
Yeah, I think one thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because you have to allocate money towards things like that. Like that's going to happen. Eventually something's going to break. You're going to need new furniture. You're going to need to replace the AC. You're going to, all those things. So just making sure that you have the money to fix those things in case it happens, I think is.
So was a proper percentage that you take out to like maintain for your?
I think about 5% is probably a good budget, for maintenance items, but it depends on the age of the property also. A brand new property, you probably can allocate less. And I completely agree with Heather that if you're in another market, it's best to go with a management company, but you can.
Yeah.
Far.
Absolutely.
You have your team really solid.
Yeah.
So I don't want, and it definitely can be done.
It's just a little bit more work.
It's just harder if you're not here, but it certainly can be done, especially if like some people have a lot of properties and they're like, maybe that's all they do, is they own 10 properties and they manage them themselves all over. And it's just, they're very engaged. Then it's different. If you're working a 9 to 5 as a teacher and you can't get to these things, then obviously it's impossible.
So let's say you do have a few rental properties. How do you find out which one needs the most attention? If there's like, let's say there's 10 homes and then two homes have roof that needs to be repaired. How do you pick on which one needs to be repaired first? Do you have like a running list of which house needs to be updated first here and there, or you kind of just do it as it
do it as it comes?
Yeah. It's just a need. I mean, we don't replace roofs unless they need to be replaced. I mean, now in the interior, right? I mean, we check on them before the season, right? And make sure that they have all the essentials, and you got to do that sort of thing for a vacation rental, right? I mean,
sure. Like the long-term rentals, I think like we just replaced the carpet in one of ours. Like we'll go in and, repaint, or if it's time to, like the maintenance and the upkeep of those long-term rental properties. Really the same with the short-term rentals. That's also where our cleaner comes in too, because she'll make sure that, hey, we need new towels, or hey, we need new bedding, or, so she kind of helps me keep an eye on that.
It's time for a deep clean instead of just a regular clean and that sort of thing.
So how many hours do you put towards focusing on your rental properties throughout the week, Heather?
Oh, goodness.
Because people think it's a great job, it's a great passive, but, behind the scenes, there's a lot of work sometimes, right?
There is. I feel like the system that we have now allows me to not have to focus so much on it. So one thing that I will add, if you are living out of state and you're wanting to self-manage, I think, getting in touch with somebody who is a local to that area, who you respect and trust, someone who knows the area, has some good connections, maybe with a good cleaner or a good handyman, just make sure that the people that you have are reliable, trustworthy people that you can count on. So I think if you have that, I think managing from afar, that would make that a lot easier. But I would say now with the help that I have, without those two key people, it'd be a lot more than what I do now. But So basically what I do is I make sure, all the funds are dispersed. VRBO handles all of it, but I go in and check like the financial side of it. You have to pay taxes. So there's rental taxes. So you have to do that every month.
Every month.
Every month.
Lodging.
Yep.
Lodging tax. Yeah.
Through the city. So that varies depending on what city it's in. And then I correspond with all the guests. So VRBO is very user-friendly. There's an app, and you have like an owner dashboard. And so they'll send a message, my phone dings. I have, templates saved in there. So all my common questions, I have the same template that I can just click and send. It can automatically send out the access instructions for your upcoming guests. So I feel like we've, systemized it to where it's super efficient. And I probably spend, right now we're in our busy time. So I'd say, I don't know, 5 hours a week, maybe less, doing all those things.
So, difference between Vrbo and Airbnb. Some people use both. Some people only use one. Why do you only use the Vrbo?
I think if that's all I was doing was rental management, I would have it on multiple platforms.
Overlapping calendars makes it more difficult.
And so my primary job is not rental management. And so I don't want to put too much on my plate. Like, I feel like for me personally, having one with the other responsibilities that I have just makes it easier.
So with homes down here with VRBO, Airbnb, or whatever it is, rentals, do you find that there be some months more than others that aren't getting booked? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that is also a big part of what I do. So, you have to determine your rates. You want to make sure you're comparable. If you're too high, all the other comparable properties are going to get booked over yours. So what I do is I go in when I'm setting our rates and I look at, similar properties. What are they renting at? Are they booked? Are they not booked? Because if they're not booked right now, then it probably means the rates are too high. So I'm constantly evaluating that. And then something else that's really important is I typically will have like a 3-night minimum. But I go in, and if there are any, breaks in our calendar, I remove that minimum stay and I'll reduce the rate, or I'll make some sort of adjustment to get it booked if it's not booked yet and it's coming up.
I think that's a great point. That's an advantage that self-managing gives you.
Yeah.
It gives you that little bit more flexibility to fill gaps, to raise and lower rates, that maybe the management companies are not paying as close, attention to. Absolutely.
So let's say, you guys always are in the real estate business, so you have a better market knowledge on the area and the condo or the beach house or whatever it is, on finding that property. If someone is looking for a property, what is their best chance on finding a decent property that has decent return in investment for VRBO or Airbnb?
Yeah, I think that there's two types of properties, right now. Of course, there's a percentage of people that want the Gulf view. So your Gulf front condo. Well, first let me qualify. There's a renter for every property, right? So, I mean, and that dictates the sales price somewhat, right? So, if the rate of return is a little less, the sales price comes down. But I'd say the two most popular, Gulf front view, direct view, and probably a cottage that's newer, where they're not having to fight elevators and things like we talked about in the last video. I'd say those are the two different products. Now, there are some on the backwaters where you have some boat slips and stuff, but that still probably isn't the highest and best return. A lot of those have like 7-night minimums or 30-day minimums and things like that. So
I think easy access to the beach too. I think what we've like if they can just go right across the street and get to the beach, even though it's like not direct Gulf front, it's easy. They can, get their kids easily across. So we have found with our investments that that's been big too.
So how most people, when we're talking about investment, they will want to buy an investment property by themselves without a real estate agent by themselves, because they believe that it's probably cutting into their costs or their income because they're paying out commissions, stuff like that. Do you think that having a real estate agent in that transaction part of finding that rental property is beneficial, or is it actually costing them more money by having a real estate agent?
Well, I mean, I think that, you're going into a market, where most of the people don't know, right? And it's an investment purchase. So I think it's critical to find somebody that's familiar with the market, familiar with investing, really, in that marketplace to help guide you through that and make sure you have a soft landing, right? You land in the right place, and protect you from things like large assessments that may be looming, or maybe the view is about to get blocked by a new development and you don't know it, things like that only a local professional is probably going to know.
Also, I'll add one thing. If it's already being rented, the transferring of the rentals and all of that is a process in itself. So like if it's already being self-managed by somebody else and you need to set it up under your information, like that's a process. So you need to make sure that you're getting the money that's owed and you're transferring them correctly and setting it all up correctly. There's a lot of moving parts with that too.
Because Vrbo and Airbnb, unless they've changed something very, very recently, correct me if I'm wrong, they will not let you transfer rentals, right? So they actually have to be canceled and rebooked. Now, we do it all the time. It's not the end of the world, but it's not like a click of a button and you're transferring rentals from one account to the other. Okay.
Sometimes it can be a lot of back and forth between buyer and seller and making sure, all the details.
Making sure you negotiate and those guests do not get charged more, making sure they're on the same page, that the guests are unaffected. Unaffected, a word? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not affected.
Not affected. Unaffected.
Unscripted here.
Very. So, TDLR, too long didn't read.
What?
TLDR? Yeah, too long didn't read. That's an internet thing.
Is that a millennial?
What?
Yes, I think so. So you never seen like too long didn't read, the TLDR?
Too long didn't read?
Yeah.
No, we're too old.
Okay. So anyway, so save yourself a trouble if you're looking for investment property to just hire a local expert who is invested in that marketplace to help you with your investment property.
If they've invested or at least worked with a good number of investors, it might not be fair to say only someone who has invested. I think that's a huge advantage. Just like if you're going to buy a primary residence, it helps to hire a realtor who owns a home. But there's a lot of great real estate agents that have worked with a lot of investors that are well equipped to help.
Why do you think being invested in the area and being an investor in the area is a benefit for that person looking for?
Because you think like an investor and you're making decisions in the marketplace just like they would. So, until you've kind of done that and put your money on the line, or when you do that, then it gives you a different set of skills and way to view it where you can help others. So Heather, what is, what's the worst thing that's kind of happened on these short-term rentals? Like it made you just want to sell them. Say that the hell with this.
I really don't. My feathers really don't get ruffled anymore, to be honest.
Well, there's those times.
But I'm thinking about
Like
so I have one. Okay, so we're changing the locks out on one of ours.
The damn lock.
Yeah. And so we had like a combo lock, just like a lock box. And so we were going to upgrade to some fancy keypad thing. And I knew that was not a good idea. But anyway, so we had somebody go put it on and it was put on upside down. And so anyway, it was the people got locked out. The keys were in there. We couldn't get in touch with the locksmith. Finally got in touch with that sort of thing. But if that's the worst thing that happens, like that's...
And some of that is because we're just so damn busy, doing our real estate sales business, that we don't pay attention to those things as much as we should. But
we should.
But some of I guess one of the cool things that have happened is people stay in our short-term rentals. They have such a good experience with Heather and her customer service that they want to do business with us on the retail side. They want to buy and sell with us because they were impressed with her interactions. So
Wow. So it's a great, like a, what do they call it? Lead generator in a sense. If you do it well.
we don't really look at it that way, but that has happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day that was actually a repeat customer, stayed with us twice, loved the area, called me, we talked through some things, and,
The thing I think people get wrong is, like, we come from a world of, like, we got to make it look good online, our listings. It's the most important thing, probably. Well, the same goes for your short-term rental listings. You got to make them look good online, right? So you want to comment on that?
Just professional photography, videos, great write-up, reviews. Just like in our real estate business, reviews are huge. People read reviews before they book a property. They do. And so, making sure we respond very quickly to their needs, and like we do that very quickly. And so
we lead in our real estate business. A lead comes in on one of our listings, they say you can call them within 5 minutes. An inquiry comes in on one of our short-term properties. The quicker she gets to them, the better chance we book them.
Yeah. So that's my primary focus, is responding quickly, making sure all their needs are met when they're here, answer all their questions when they're here, provide them with restaurant recommendations, places to take their kids. Like, all of that is done in the very beginning. We're also, one other thing, we're pet friendly at our short-term rentals that we have. It's really hard to find pet friendly rentals, and so I feel like that has helped our rental income. We do charge a non-refundable pet fee, but I feel like being pet friendly has helped us.
With some limitations, right? There's limitations on the pet sizes and numbers of them, but I completely agree.
From the renter side, so how do you, let's say someone start with one, I think this, like, how do you guys decide as a couple, as a team, when you guys, if you guys had one, to grow to the second one? It's a pretty hard transition. You got the one and you get to the second one. How do you guys decide as a team when is the right time to get that second one?
I think, that's a little bit of your financial situation, but one strategy is, to let your account build up, right? And you just don't touch any of the profits, just let it sit there, and generate for a couple of years or whatever, and then take that money and put a down payment on another. I mean, that's one strategy, but, it depends on the market and things, but some of that's just financial specific for that family. Anything you want to add to that?
I was just thinking, just our personal experience. Like, we bought a cottage style and had it for a couple of years and saw how well it was doing. You get rental projections and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. You're not really sure. Well, it turned out to be the case for us for one of our properties that we bought. And so it turned out to be a really good investment. So we went and did that again, so we held it for a minute to really see what it was going to do and its potential. And then once we were like, oh, okay, this is what we can generate, then we had another opportunity to buy something similar and knew it was a good investment.
Yeah, improving basically. Yeah. So what do you do, Heather, I think some people are afraid to buy these types of properties because of, like, spring breakers or, hangout fest, your crowd that they think may tear up their property. What do we do to minimize that? Nothing.
I mean, you really can't minimize it unless you're going to the property and checking on it every day.
Right. We haven't had many problems.
No, we've had one that I can recall. Right. But
a glow stick problem.
Yeah, it was during Hangout Fest one.
Yeah, they like glow sticks.
Yeah, there was all of our bedding was ruined, but that's also where our amazing cleaner steps in. And when she goes and evaluates the property after, she'll send me pictures and she'll.
So is there deposits that they make that they lose when they damage?
Yes. So they do there is a deposit. Yes.
Okay.
So how do you handle tenants' complaints when you do have them?
It depends on what it is. Like,
how you typically handle it?
I mean,
handle all of it.
yeah, I just try to address it the best that I can. I'm more like, I don't want to say cater to the tenants, but if it's like a short-term person down here with their family trying to enjoy their vacation and I get a complaint, if they're not happy with something, I'm going to try to do whatever I can to make it right so they can have an enjoyable stay. If that means I have to send somebody down there to replace something or, whatever. Something was wrong with the AC at one of ours. It's still under warranty because it's a newer property. And it happened at night and they couldn't sleep in one of the bedrooms. So I'm on the phone with the warranty company, getting the HVAC company out there that night to fix the problem.
You treat it like you'd want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
You spend a lot of money to come down here. It's not cheap to vacation in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
Right.
You want to be mindful of that. Of course, every once in a while, there's an unreasonable, thing, and it's just nothing we can do about it,
So what happened if one of your rental property, or has it happened, the short-term rental, and someone wants to book it for a long-term rental? How do you manage that? Have you had
that's
that
a good
problem?
question. So that's a great thing, really. So we do that a lot, like in the winter months. Instead of they'll want to come down for 3 months, and I'll do a special rate for those bookings. So that's a good point.
So how do you come up with the special rate? Like, how do you figure it out? Like, contract wise, like what are you doing?
Yeah. So I know how much our expenses are every month, and so I try to kind of base my pricing around that. A lot of times, honestly, though, it just depends on what I have available. So it's almost like I'll negotiate. So having 1 month booked for a lesser amount is better than not having anything booked on my calendar for that month. So it really depends on the needs of the guest and what my calendar looks like. And then that kind of determines how flexible or how much I'm going to negotiate on the price.
So let's say hypothetically your average per night was $140 a night. You're not charging 30 times 140.
No, definitely not. They get a discounted rate for booking for a long period of time.
In the off season,
And do you look for clientele like remote nurse, not remote, but nursing, travel nurses, or anything like that?
We don't. I would say if I had more time to dedicate to rental management, I probably would. I think that'd be a good strategy. There's a lot of different things you could do, but no, we do not currently do that.
Let's say someone is looking down here to rent and they have any questions. How can they reach out to you guys? And is there a service fee charge that you guys are going to charge them for any help?
No, I mean, if you're looking to evaluate an investment down here, we're happy to help. If you're a guest looking to rent, I get that a lot too. Like, hey, do you got any properties? We can send you the links to our properties. They're usually full. Feel free to reach out about that, but we may just direct you to a management company if all of ours are full. But we're happy to help anybody at any time.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help too. You can call me. My number is 251-978-8600. We're both also very active on social media.